Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Popcorn for Dinner podcast. I'm your host Emmanuel, and today we are talking about Loki season 2, episode 3. I've got two amazing guests to discuss the episode with you. Before that, obviously, welcome to our podcast feed. We are obviously covering a multitude of different series at the moment. We're talking Loki, obviously, which you're listening to. We're covering Gen V, which just got renewed for season 2. We are going to cover Invincible, which starts next month. Pretty excited about that. We've got episodes already about like series that have just completed, like Sex Education, Top Boy, Winning Time, and The Continental. Also, our sister podcast is This Cinema is back from its hiatus, and they've just come out with a new episode on Taylor Swift's Eras tour, and that's going to be on this feed as well. So join us for all these episodes, give us your thoughts, rate us, review us, share it with your friends, everything. Cool. So, with me today to discuss Loki, I have got a returning guest, Jeremiah. Jeremiah, how you doing?
Hey guys, I'm good. Happy to be back.
And we've also got a new face for Loki, I guess. He's been with us before on Popcorn for Dinner. Welcome, Mo.
Oh, nice to be with you. I
For-
had to
for-
say it. I had to say it. Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me on for I forced the number of times I forced my way onto this podcast. Uh, just like I don't know. I think this is the podcast I've been on most. I haven't even been on our
Oh,
podcast as many times.
Ooh. Ooh. We're privileged. For those who don't know, Mo is the editor in chief of Streamer. Check them out. They do a lot of amazing pop culture content. We had Fat Four with us last week, who is their comic editor.
That's
So yeah,
TJ. His name isn't actually Fat Thor. It's TJ.
I mean,
I mean,
he told us to call him that, so we stick with it. Now,
I just have to. I just because when people get to know him, they're like, "Oh, Thor." I'm like, "Who the hell is Thor?"
no, you,
Like that's a character.
not you being Mysterio at this point.
you've exposed him now. Now everyone knows his actual
Like,
name.
Yeah, I've doxed him. I've doxed him. Wait till I tell you what TJ stands for.
Oh God.
oh god.
Right. Cool. So let's get into the episode. Mo, what did you think about the episode?
Yeah, I thought the episode was I've seen the first four episodes, and I thought this was my second favorite out of the four that I got a chance to see. Only because when I first watched it, I thought that each new episode was trying to do something different from a craft perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I thought the cinematography in episodes one and two were really, really good, and they stood out for me as far as like the technical achievements. For me, episode three had my two favorite shots from like the whole of the show, and probably in the MCU in general, because it was that shot of Loki and Mobius traveling through the time door
Mm-hmm.
at towards the start of the episode, and it was that shot of Renslayer, Timely, and Miss Minutes on the boat,
Mm-hmm.
and because Miss Minutes is still black and white,
Yeah.
she kind of looked like a moon
Yeah.
there, and I thought that was I just thought that was a really nice picture. There was I think Moon Knight episode three also had a really nice shot of the moon,
Yeah.
and so like funnily enough, Moon Knight was also one of the Marvel shows that they gave us four episodes for.
Nice.
So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
just thought that was a funny coincidence, and it's also the Moon Knight directors did do directing for Loki season two, so there's similarities there.
okay. I didn't
Ah,
know the Moon Knight directors were over. I was gonna say like
Yeah,
if.
Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, I think.
Oh,
I
nice.
get the names mixed around, but yeah, it's Justin and Aaron.
I was gonna say that if a show called Moon Knight doesn't have a good shot of the moon, then what are we doing here? But at the same time, we've talked about the cinematography and the directing. I think we talked about it in last week's episode that it's been really good. For this episode as well, it was really good. I need to shout out director of this episode, Kazra Farahani. He co-wrote and directed the episode. I wanted to give him a shout out because I think he's got an amazing story because he's the production assistant on the actual Loki season 2. He was a production assistant in season 1 as well, but before that he was a concept artist for Marvel. So it's just nice to see someone kind of like level up through the system from like concept artist to
hmm.
production assistant to now writing and directing an episode that we're all saying we enjoyed. Um, so and he's also an Iranian man, so props for diversity as well. So yeah, just wanted to give him a shout out. I thought he did an amazing job.
That's something that is the same with the director from last week's episode, Dan DeLu.
Okay, yeah.
He was an assistant director
Ah,
for the show as well. So it's good
nice.
to see Marvel kind of working with talent that they've already
Progression,
got.
yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of not like keep it in the family, but also kind of really train up the people that they've got
Mm.
to make it a studio that's got like veteran talent that actually does produce good work.
oh yeah,
Because I think the
definitely.
objective for these directors is to start them off on something small, like an episode of a TV show,
Mhm,
and then see if they can maybe graduate to taking on a whole season, and
mhm.
then taking on a film, and then taking on like that's the progression thing I think that
Yeah,
goes.
yeah. No,
But
I think it's great. It's great to be honest.
can
Because
I interrupt
yeah,
this
go on.
discussion about Loki to give you some some actual Marvel news that broke today,
All right, go on.
which
Breaking
is
news.
that
Sure, exclusive. Well,
it's
not really, not really
exclusive, but
exclusive anymore.
um, but there's a I need to see what the names are, but Sita Menon, Raj, and DK, who did The Family Man, a show called Farsi, and they're working on Citadel India
Mhm.
for Prime Video. They've just been hired by Marvel Studios to write an upcoming movie that is described as a cool new origin story for a superhero. They were introduced to Marvel by the Russo brothers,
Mhm.
and Marvel Studios, we know this from Deadline, recently opened up pitches for writers for X-Men projects.
Ooh.
So
Hmm.
it would be interesting to see if they're going to be doing an X-Men project
Oh,
Which
interesting.
expert?
because
Yeah.
there's some X-Men stuff that links to Loki with obviously Victor Timely and all of the kindness and Apocalypse and Ramatat and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
So
yeah. To bring it back to Loki, it's funny because like online last week, I was seeing a lot of people saying, "Oh, you know, when they go into the room with the temporal loom and the doors
Hmm.
open, and they're like, that really reminded them of Cerebro." I was like, I mean, we can't start doing this thing where any sliding door is Cerebro just because we
okay,
know
but
X Men.
but any sliding door with an X on it has to be Cerebro though. Like
I mean,
you
even
gotta give it.
The X on it was reaching for me,
Th-
but
Okay, so what they turned architectural structure into an Easter egg. That's just genius. That's just good filmmaking.
fair, fair, fair.
Fair
I mean,
enough.
people will connect to it, but then I can't. This thing, like I remember, like it was Miss Marvel where we had that little bit of the X Men theme, and I just
Yes,
remember losing my shit. So I
I
can't complain about people doing that.
oh I was
Wait,
gonna when I watched Multiverse of Madness in the cinema, and it was the first IMAX showing in the UK.
yeah,
Um, and then I
mhm,
remember I was so tired, and then when Professor X came on and he said the just because people lose their way or something like that,
yeah,
the person next to me was repeating it, and I was like, oh my god,
yeah.
let's this was like a year and 3 months ago, a year and 5 months ago, and people are still clinging on to any X-Men that they can get. So we need some news soon.
Yeah, no,
Fair
absolutely.
enough.
Right, let's talk about what we do have in Marvel. Back to Loki. Jeremiah, what did you think about episode 3?
Wow. Yeah, no, like this is probably like Mo was saying, this is one of my favorite episodes of Legends of Tomorrow, or like Disney likes to call it Loki.
You're gonna have angry fans in your mentions. Lock your account
Maybe,
now.
but I loved especially those first 10, 15 minutes, like we were saying offline. I loved the idea, and we mentioned this last week again. We're coming down to earth and giving us more of the adventures that people probably thought we would get when we heard there would be a show with Loki that had to do with time travel, and we discovered there was something called the TVA. So I liked the whole they get to play dress up, they go undercover, they're trying to figure out without breaking the timeline. But of course, like in this case, we don't really care about branching the timeline anymore. But they're hunting someone. Loki and Mobius are doing their classic cop routines or whatever, and I loved the episode, and I had a lot of fun watching it because I mean, like you were mentioning as well, there's a bunch of Easter eggs that we can pick up on from in different parts of this episode, like how Victor Timely connects to other characters. Although, again, I still find myself having to calm down and not try to theorize too much before we start thinking, oh my days, maybe Victor Timely connects to the Fantastic Four or to X. Like, it's Loki. We're just going to get a story about Loki this time.
So
Well,
so
you say that, but Loki is one of those shows that can go anywhere
Mm.
Yeah, I
because of
do.
how unburdened it is to the rest of the MCU.
Yeah.
Perhaps, but this is what I was saying to Emmanuel, that like it doesn't technically, it doesn't have to be something that we see inside of Loki. So you see how, like, for example, the end of last season, everyone puts to the birth of the multiverse, and that affects the entirety of the MCU. And we can look at it that way, that whatever Victor Timely is doing or any of the characters is doing could set the landscape of the next few years of the MCU. But much like how Doctor Strange didn't show up in WandaVision, I don't expect to see Doctor Doom in Loki season 2.
Fair.
I would,
Fair. I know. Mo wants us to do it, but this is what I call the Mephisto rule. After WandaVision, do not over
okay,
theorize, or else you
no. The
end up
thing
with
with
Ralph Boner.
no, Mephisto was always like hinted and part of the plan, right? Like it was always hinted, always part of the plan.
Yeah,
They knew
yeah.
what they were doing going into it.
Mm,
But I know with Loki, from the development side, they really did because it was a show that they'd always intended to have a second season.
Mm-hmm.
At least they really approached it way differently to how they approach shows like WandaVision and
mm,
upcoming Agatha, where they're treating everything as a spin off of a limited series.
Mm-hmm.
fair
But
enough.
Loki was the only one that was properly developed with a second season in mind.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
so so it is like, and that's why they could risk it by having someone as big as Kang show up in the finale.
Mm,
Because I would say that like out of any show, if there's any MCU show that you can really like go wild with your predictions on, it would be Loki. Um, and purely because of the nature of it, because you're traveling into different multiverses, anything could happen at any
true.
point in time.
I mean,
And
we
because
have.
Disney owns everything, you could have
Sorry.
no, it's fine. You could have, and you can have, like they did in the season finale of the first season, references to other Marvel projects, even ones that aren't Disney owned from the off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree because as you were saying, I realized we have already seen a Reed with Richard. So who's to say we don't see a dog? Like I realized as soon as I said it, that if there's any comedy in the universe, people will play this scene back like right next to the introduction of Doctor Doom when it does happen, because it could happen. We could just see some variant on some timeline, and it's not that important, but it's just there.
So you heard it here first. We're seeing the Fantastic Four before the season wraps up.
Oh God, that's exactly the opposite of what I was saying.
Cool. So let's get into the crux of this episode now, right? So
Yeah.
coming into this episode, we know Ravonna Renslayer and Miss Minutes are on a mission given to them by He Who Remains, and we get to see that they land in Chicago in 1869 on the Sacred Timeline, and they end up, dropping what ends up being a TVA guidebook to True a young Victor Timely's window, and fast forward, we go into 25 years in the future, I think, to 1893, and we're now on
Yeah.
a branch timeline, which I imagine is the show telling us that that like dropping that TVA guidebook has kind of been a Nexus event and has taken Victor Timely, off his normal routine, and now has created this branch timeline. And we kind of get into it of like Mobius and Loki show up there in 1893. Ravonna and Miss Minutes are there, and I think the whole thing is all about Victor Timely, and is he going to become He Who Remains? Is he not? Is he going to become something worse? It that's basically the meat of the episode, and we also get to kind of know him as well. So yeah, so what so far, just based on this episode, what did we think of Victor Timely, Jeremiah?
Um, the one thing is I like him a lot.
Hmm.
He's someone that you want to hear more of. Like one of those. Like for one, I loved. Again, this is where we come back to Legend of Tomorrow. But I love the idea of these geniuses that we come back in time and we see them scamming people.
Well, like Oppenheimer.
Yeah, well, yeah, no,
Well,
but
just like what the Ferris wheel moves and all of a sudden it's just Albert Einstein appears.
I feel like the only thing that was missing to make it a complete Legend of Tomorrow thing was probably if you had someone like Casey or someone who's a nerd in the TVA come in, and let's say Victor Timely, you replace him with some known scientist and that person is nerd. That's the only thing they don't have. But no, I loved meeting him as a character, and again, the show does enough to make you question, like, how much does this character know? Because at first you're introduced and you're like, when we saw him in the post-credit scene of Ant-Man, you're thinking, no, this is a He Who Remains variant that is starting something back in time. But this show goes through the stage of making sure to show us that actually Renslayer sets him on a path. And they've done enough right now to convince us that no, this person is learning from the TVA guidebook, as opposed to this person made sure, or at least this person was expecting to receive it here. So it's like, is it he who remains in at the end of time, like you were saying, controlling things to make sure things happen the way he wants it to, or are we being like completely misled by a very well calculated Kang variant that is even more dangerous than he remains could have ever been, because he's making sure things happen in a certain way and then convincing us that this is an innocent good guy at this point.
Yeah, that's again like it's so fascinating, of like I love the idea that he who remains is dead, but his
Mm,
machinations are still everywhere. Like it all still revolves around him. But yeah,
mm.
so it's all about like we're trying to figure out like what did he plan because he literally had an eternity there. Like this could be planned 2,075,000 or whatever. But we're getting to see it, and yeah, it's great. Mo, what did you think about Victor Timely?
Okay, so you mentioned Casey, seeing Casey. Someone mentioned Casey before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my colleagues, Britt, has a theory on Casey, and it is that she hasn't seen the episodes, so she doesn't know. But it's that his uh, his Sacred Timeline version, the real Casey,
Hmm.
was
Mhm.
actually one of the prisoners that escaped from Alcatraz, because we see a shot of Alcatraz in the trailer and we see Casey there. So that could be because there was prisoners that escaped from Alcatraz and no one could find them. There's four of them. There's like a BuzzFeed Unsolved about it,
Mm.
but it's a quite a nice theory, and I think like finding out more of what other people did on the Sacred Timeline
Hmm.
is
Mm.
really like interesting, because it sort of would help understand some of their motivations a little bit. So I thought that like I think someone like Casey being a prisoner and then escaping and then him winding up effectively back in a prison and not being able to escape just seems like a bit of a cruel thing. But I think that like he's been upgraded to a series regular this season.
Yeah.
Eugene Cordero has, so I think it would be quite nice to have some backstory there, because we know we're going to see some backstory of something.
Mm.
Yeah, no,
Um,
like I think last episode we really went into it of like, these guys have all got like different origin stories, and it's like it's gonna be sort of mad to see what they were all up to if we do get to see that and stuff. So yeah, Casey's one of those guys that I haven't just really thought too much about. It's just he's kind of just
mm.
happy to be there, and I'm just happy to have him there. That kind of thing. It's like
Yeah,
who's
he's awesome.
memorized the handbook, he's done it. Cool. Just keep going.
Yeah.
you
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people are theorizing that OB could be the actual villain
Mm,
of the show. So if Casey knows the handbook and OB knows the handbook and OB turns out to be a villain, then maybe Casey can be the new OB.
Hmm.
that
Maybe
so
for the new TVA.
Are there
yeah.
three? There are three
So
episodes
so
left.
to
Kind of.
bring it
Is
to
there?
bring it back to Victor Timely, right? Like we're now so these machinations are so complex that you now have to think like, okay, are we dealing with a kind of closed loop here, or is that what we're trying to deal with? Like, He Who Remains sort of created the TVA. There's obviously some connection to OB because he wrote the TVA guidebook. Then the TVA guidebook is what sets Victor Timely off to, as this episode kind of presents it, to go on and become He Who Remains, or that's what our characters believe anyway. And it's like, is it that kind of bootstrap again? Because again, if it is fair play, because the show did kind of foreshadow it when we saw OB kind of remembering stuff and basically the fact that OB is basically a nickname that Loki
Yeah,
gave him.
Yeah,
That
and
kind of
but
thing.
his name anyway is a snake eating its own tail.
that's
So
Yeah.
it's
I was gonna yeah.
so that like that is it's
His
interesting.
his name is the biggest like Easter egg or like
Yeah.
clue we've had. So
Well,
everything being cyclical,
yeah,
and yeah, that's why I'm still on that theory. Like everything that is supposed to happen is still happening, which is
yeah,
why Kang is that scary because it's like everything we're doing is futile.
Right.
yeah.
So you think the way we are now, we are on the way to heading to another He Who Remains, kind of exactly the same person at the end of at the end of
I
time.
don't. So this is the thing. This is where we're saying that I don't know. And when we discussed previously about the branch timeline, like you mentioned that the TVA guidebook sets him on a different path. Now, obviously, with interdimensional travel, it's possible that it ends up still being him over there. Because in the finale, he's careful not to say which timeline he's from, but he does kind of allude to the idea that he protected his timeline. But what he did say was once I isolated the sacred timeline,
Mhm.
Yeah.
which could have
So,
just been any timeline that was the last one that he liked, that he
well,
made sure he was the, you know,
I think specifically a loom, like the point of it being a loom is that it's taking strands of different timelines. So it's
Mhm.
mm,
all these timelines are being fed through it as threads, and it's turning it into one single string.
yeah,
So it's weaving all of the timelines together. So it's not necessarily that so it doesn't
that's
really matter which
interesting.
timeline he's from.
Exactly.
The point of a loom is to bring everything into one space. But now because you're basically breaking that, you're trying to what they're doing by like destroying the sacred timeline is breaking that loom. They're trying to make sure that the loom can handle all of the branch timelines to no longer turn it into. They're basically trying to retrofit the loom.
Mm.
Mm.
But um, I wanted to ask you, what do you guys think is the big secret that Miss Minutes teased?
Oh,
Ooh, we're
bro,
skipping we're
I don't
skipping
even know where
ahead.
to begin on that
Oh, are
So
we?
one.
Sorry. Okay, wait. I wanted to actually talk about Victor Timely. I wanted to actually talk
yeah,
about Victor
yeah,
Timely
go. Let's
Yeah.
because
stick on Victor Timely for now.
okay,
We will get to
okay,
Renslayer and Miss Minutes because that is a full
there's a
section.
lot to talk
Yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
even Renslayer and Victor Timely is a whole dynamic that we're still yet to properly
Yeah.
explore. But like,
Mm.
yeah,
So yeah,
the
There's
so
so Victor.
go on.
Hey, oh
go
yeah,
on.
so Jonathan Majors, the performance, it was really, really frustrating or like tough to watch because
Mm-hmm.
you're watching it with the context of him saying, "I'm not a bad guy. I haven't done any bad things," and then Sylvia's telling him, "But you will," and you know that this was filmed way before March
Oh
2023.
my god.
So I
Oh,
was watching it with that in mind, and I was like, "Oh gosh,
so
oh no."
you broke the fourth wall.
I was, yeah, I mean, yeah. So I was, but, but I was watching it and I was like, that's a very uncomfortable performance to watch,
Mm,
given the context. But
yeah.
I did think that it was interesting that they had Sylvie basically being the arbiter of his fate
Mm-hmm.
and where he winds up,
Mm-hmm.
and her having that control and power is something that she thinks she wanted,
Yeah.
um, and she could almost feel herself like kind of taking it back and joining the TVA to really kind of leave her mark on it. But she like there's obviously some hesitation there. Um,
Yeah. So
so it would be interesting to see how it comes about with what we saw in episode one as well.
yeah. So talking about like Sylvie and Victor Timely, right? Like that dynamic is something I always used to call like the baby Hitler dynamic of like when people say, if you went back in time today and you had the chance to kill baby Hitler before he did anything terrible, would you be a good person if you did or did not? Because it's like Sylvie is saying all these things. Oh, Mo's telling me he's gonna do it. Oh my gosh. But yeah, Sylvie is saying, I want to kill you because I know what you can become or what you will become. But Victor Timely, I'm not gonna say Jonathan Majors, is telling us he hasn't done those things. We don't know his heart. And I don't know, it's just one of those philosophical arguments that like it fascinates me a lot because I can't really 100% say like what side is right or wrong because it's like um again, innocent till proven guilty, and then things can always change and stuff. But yeah,
Mm.
Jeremiah, what do you think?
On what you just said, because my hand was raised for something else, but like on what you just said, I tend to agree. Um, I think that we've seen enough to know that characters don't necessarily. I mean, variance literally exists,
Mm-hmm.
right? Characters don't have to make the same choices in every iteration. And drawing it back to the Ouroboros loop, potentially, uh, I'm not like super versed on the whole comics thing with the Avengers and Kang and
Mm-hmm.
Thor and then restarting the universe and having the TVA instead of the timekeepers. But if we have something like that, we would also get the idea that potentially, while everything can be cyclical and can close this loop, someone else could also start something. Because if everything is just like supposed to happen and just keeps happening over and over and over again, that's kind of cruel because then the heroes either always fail or always win. But it's like you're iterating with every new loop, someone might change something different.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we as viewers tend to want to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously the fear that it could be the exact same thing and we still end up with He Who Remains and not just any variant of He Who Remains but the very one that we're talking about, um still back there at the same points in time to continue his work or to just be there. um that is it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know where to begin with that. But on the Sylvie and Victor Timely dynamic, I kind of get Sylvie's hesitation. But at the end of the day, okay, I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but like she does, in a sense, let go
Mm-hmm.
because for some reason Loki's still able to get to her on the idea that if we don't use him, if he doesn't help us, then even what you're trying to protect, you will lose.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I think I agree with Mo where it's like she's definitely conflicted about something, but it's clear where her initial like motivations still lie. Because when Loki tells her, "What would you do when another variant shows up?" she hesitates a bit and she goes, "Well, I'll kill them all."
Mm-hmm.
Um, So we do know that something is pricking at her mind the same way she's wondering something when we leave her off
Yeah.
in the end of the
Rushed.
last episode as well.
Yeah. So it's all fascinating. There's one like theory I want to put out there to you guys.
Mm.
Could we all be
I won't
overthinking?
confirm it.
Okay. No. Yeah. But I was just saying, like, could we all
Breaking
be
your own rule
overthinking
here.
this, right? With Victor Timely? Could it just be a case of like he who remains is like, right, if I die, the loom is gonna be a mess. They're gonna need someone to fix it. Let's set this guy off because the way I look at it, like Victor Timely was already creating some of this stuff that looks like it's gonna be TVA technology. Like,
Yeah, but wasn't that based on him having the book?
Yep.
fair. True. So maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe it's something like, do we get him to do that faster or some way so that he can create, I've forgotten what he calls it. Is it the stabilizer or something that should fix the loom? And he remains like, this is the first problem. This guy's going to solve that. And we're all thinking, oh no, because he looks like him, he's going to be a he who remains. He's going to be the one to go on to be the end. Maybe his purpose is actually just to fix the loom. What do you guys think
You
I'm
about
know,
that?
gonna I'm gonna show you something.
Hmm.
the listeners won't get this.
That's why you should
The
watch
watcher
us on
the
YouTube, by the
the viewers will. So
Yeah,
the viewers will. So go subscribe to the YouTube.
fair
This
enough.
is my reaction to episode 4,
Oof. Oof.
Fair enough.
and
Fair enough.
I sent a message to my colleague Josh. Episode 4 just started, already blown away. Does it get better than it currently is? Because something happened, and then this was my reaction at the end of the episode. So I
So
would say that your theorizing is you're not overthinking anything. Don't overthink with this show because I don't even know where the show is going to go.
Fair enough. I do have a question on that though,
yeah.
because I think I forgot to say this in the last one. Because I like the idea as well that he just needs him to be able to stabilize the room,
Hmm.
and then whichever variant he is will exist,
Yeah.
and that way he like that's possible as well. And then it would come on with maybe even asking the question of would this Victor Timely be key or instrumental in helping to stop that? And that, that's not that important now. My question is kind of what we were talking about offline, or if we're going to call
Hmm.
it that. um where is this Victor Timely from? We do know that in the existence of the multiverse, it's possible for the same identity to be born at different times, but we're talking about like almost like over 1 millennia. So this is a 31st century person in the 19th century.
So I mean, yeah, like we 100%. I think the show needs to give us more information there on what's going on,
Yeah,
right?
because
Because is
we know the timely character
hmm
travels back in time to 1901 in the comics. Well,
hmm
some people might know that. But like you were saying offline, we meet this one as a child. So
yeah.
was this child like transported there first? Or is this actually no, I am aware of what I am doing and I am putting on an act even to Miss Minutes and to Renslayer? Because when we mentioned Kang Prime, that's kind of the idea as well, that
hmm
all along the Victor Timely is also Kang Prime, but only his most trusted people would ever know that. And it's like, are we being drawn along for that ride as well?
So so oh sorry, I was just gonna say like with that one, like again, I think we need more information. I get what you mean,
Mm,
but I think it could. I'm inclined to believe the show, right? That he doesn't know any of this stuff and it's actually new to
fair
him,
enough.
right? And again, everyone's talking about the man you will become, the man you will be. We don't know what it's going to be. And there was a specific thing they kept saying. Um, I'll probably talk more about this as well, but like Loki talks about, oh, he's kind of a trickster, like he's a confidence, what's it called, a con man. And it's like, and Victor Timely kind of pauses and says, well, I know my ideas are good, but I feel like the technology of my time is holding me back. Is it just the case that there is this is me just putting this spitballing from my brain. Is it a case of like he has these amazing ideas and somehow he happens to be able to go to the future where his ideas can become reality, and that is how he becomes who they feel like he's going to become, you know?
Well, this version, I would say this. If we go with the assumption that he doesn't know anything, yes,
Yeah,
then that's what I'm expecting to be the story of this version, because he is going to the TVA now.
yeah,
He is going to see the technology that he's been seeing in the TVA guidebook. He's going to presumably learn some stuff because he's very clearly a very smart person. Like even in that time, even with seeing, I mean, if you give me that TVA guidebook, I'm not going to be able to make a temporal loom. Like what
yeah,
are we
like the
talking about?
80s. Was yeah, like in the 1800s. What am I saying? The 80s. In the 1800s, he
Yeah,
made a temporal
yeah,
loom.
and he does it,
Um,
and we're literally watching him right there. It's like some prestige stuff where it's like everyone is first like doubting him, and then they're wild and they want their hands on his machine again. Legend of Tomorrow, but
that made me laugh quite a bit because I'm like, come on, you guys don't understand what he said. It just looked cool, and you just want to spend money on it. But but yeah,
what?
Jesus Christ, Jeremiah, how many drugs were you on watching this episode?
Me?
Yes, because how
Why?
like, you might be correct, but like just the fact that this theory has even come to your mind is just like what what planet were you watching it
I
on?
was very sober the entire
Yeah, I
time.
took an edible and I watched all four
Must be
episodes.
nice. Must
No,
be
as in
nice.
like I mean, I obviously I'm trying to stay away, but then this theory just kind of broke my brain. I was like, I could avoid this episode 5 times and never even considered it. Um,
You should read my reaction and tell me that I wasn't stoned as fuck when I was
so
writing it.
one thing I wanted to ask you guys because you guys seem to be veering away from it. And I just kind of need your opinions on it because I feel like from what I've seen, it's basically a litmus test for people's
Mm,
reception to this episode. And actually, before I go there, the Sylvie thing. I was thinking about the Sylvie thing. I think obviously it's important because she's trying to avoid being the TVA, right? That's what she hates. And the
mm,
TVA, especially in season one, were going and printing people based on they're an aberration and they could do this. So
hmm
her then killing this variant, which we don't know, she probably believes, but she doesn't know for certain that he's going to become He Who Remains. Her killing this variant makes her the TVA. She's killing him because he's on a branch timeline. He's
yep,
probably going to walk into. She says he would have been fine, but then you gave him the book, he branched the timeline, and
Yep.
now I have to kill him. And that would just make her TV. That would make her like Ravona, so she can't do that.
Huh.
So she becomes what she hates.
What I wanted to ask, sorry, was why didn't they prune the branch timeline in episode 2? That the
Sylvie's
branch
one.
timeline the one that Ravona and Miss Minutes made when they gave young Timely the stuff.
Well, they're
Why
not
didn't
pruning. They're not
So,
pruning any
I
But,
branch
but they didn't
timelines.
they didn't prune all the timelines.
they
It's
couldn't
No,
get
they-
to all of
they-
them.
They
But I
didn't get
think
all of them.
also I don't. I
They've cut
think
armor
I
essentially.
think the show is kind of also telling us like this hadn't happened then, like that Nexus event hadn't happened at that
Potentially.
point. Because
Well,
if
but
I remember
the point
correctly,
of
it
the
was after
TVA
that.
is
It was after that that they got the ping from the Tempad, like after the
True.
docks explosion and stuff.
That's true.
So it
Which is
happened.
why I
Anyway,
was
the
also
reason they come out
asking
of the
last.
shadows is I want to ask you guys, and obviously I know why you're trying to skirt away from me, but I think it's kind of important just for the thoughts of this episode. What are your receptions individually to the performance of Jonathan Timely? Because not
Jonathan Timely.
Jonathan
Victor
Timely.
Timely. Because it's obviously a choice. There are lots of choices involved,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
You know
I
the
what?
decision needs to make him different.
was going.
And I want to know, what do you guys think about the performance itself? Obviously,
I
all the
think
caveats exist, and we know who we're talking about, but just the performance of the character. What do you guys think?
purely performance.
Yes, purely performance.
Good performance, very reminiscent of He Who Remains, and you could see how someone who's that eccentric from the start can, if he's spending an eternity effectively alone or talking to a computer, then how he can become that kind of effed up that we the level of effed up that we see him in at the end of season 1. So his performance definitely has reminders and echoes of He Who Remains, and I think it was interesting, but I don't like how sort of like innocent they're trying to make him, because they like
Is that
the
because it's
whole
played
thing
by
is that
Jonathan Majors?
well, yes and no. It's hard to ignore. It's really really hard to ignore. It was a sympathetic performance, but it's still like it is very tainted, and it's the same thing with the Miss Minutes as well. It's like the show is very very tainted for me
Oh god.
a little bit.
At least they're villains.
At least they are villains. Yes, in real life too.
Jerry and Emmanuel, what did you guys think of the performance?
Banky is gonna accuse me of doing drugs again because
Oh,
the
actually,
funny thing
sorry,
is,
before I forget, Jeremiah, there are other time travel things apart from Legends of Tomorrow.
I
Just
mean,
so you
yes,
know,
but it's
I
like
can send
this.
you a list if you want.
I watch a lot of them, but this show for some
Okay,
reason, I don't know if
listen,
it's the
but
cinematography or what. Especially this episode, I don't know. Like if you know, there's a way the camera looks when they're in Brad Wolf's premiere, and also this that gives me specifically when they go into 19 and 1800s and Legend of Tomorrow. That's why it's always giving me that, like specifically that.
you just said
It
that the
always,
Disney budget is equivalent to the CW budget. That's incredible.
if you
That's an
want to take
incredible
it that
statement to make.
way,
Well,
if you want, I actually think it's a choice. I think it's a choice that you made. I don't think it's budgets, and I think it's a cinematographic or whatever. Like I think
I
it's a
have,
choice they've made.
I
But
have
to
some
answer,
fun stuff with that. I'll
yeah,
fill you in after.
fair enough. To answer your question, I was going to ask just to be sure because I'm not sure if I remember enough of his performance in Ant Man. Did he have a stammer as well
no,
in Ant Man
No,
before?
no.
I
which
go?
is the main thing
Okay.
of I want to fight. Yeah, no,
I was
Exactly.
going to
So,
say.
because when I was picking up on that, is like Mo was saying, it reminds you a lot of He Who Remains. In my head, I'm thinking it just feels like, yeah, this is the younger version of him. Um,
I mean, He Remains does
as
not have his stammer either.
Yeah.
he had the same, he spoke the same way. There was something about it. Like this is what I'm saying. If he's got the stammer under control, the way he like pauses and then it's like time could be like
But
there's a cadence he
yeah.
speaks with that was exactly like He Who Remains, but take him millions or thousands or whatever units of years he's gone in the future, and he doesn't have that stammer anymore, but he still has the same cadence. It was like I was watching the same person, but if like a yeah, just a version of him that is not like different but younger and earlier. Like that's why I felt like I'm watching the exact same person.
Yeah, like the precursor to He Who Remains.
Exactly. Like, because
Um,
the stammer wasn't there exactly, but the way he spoke, it was the same
personality,
way.
the
Exactly.
eccentricity of
And
it. I
that's what I
thought,
think that's what
yeah,
you're trying to get on that. Like, Jonathan Majors is kind of purposely consistent in that performance, which is why I think it's a clue as well. Because
Okay.
the one thing they did say, well, I think it was the Ant-Man directors kind of commenting on Kang as a character about how you'd have a lot of fun, and then the actor gets to play the same character in many different ways. So it always stuck to me. It's like, why are these two so similar? And I thought that's why you even asked us about it, Banky. But yeah.
But yeah, it's probably fitting that I'm going last because I think I was kind of in the middle of the performance, right? Because when it got to like the dramatic stuff towards the end, when he's talking about, you don't know my heart, I'm a good person. I was like, okay, cool. He pulled me in. Before that, again, it was like, yes, getting like matching with the He Who Remains is fine, but it kind of took me out a little bit. It was like there
Mm.
was a bit comedy sketch of like, okay, this is a different Jonathan Major, and maybe that's just me. Although I looked online and I think other people had that opinion as well, because it just feels like
yeah,
now it's like every Kang or He Who Remains or whatever has a tick. Like, okay, this one stammers. Okay, cool.
or well,
The
like
If you go to the post credit scene, this one's British. This one's it's like it gets a little distracting for me. Like I feel like we could do things a bit subtler. Like it doesn't have to be something on the nose, like a stammer. But
yeah, I, I I thought, yeah, like the infantilization of that character is meant to
mhm,
be like it's sort of the way that he's portrayed as
like a teenager.
like the innocence sort of like transgresses into like
Mm.
very very childish
Hmm.
at times, and I think that that can be quite difficult for people to attach themselves to.
Hmm.
Um,
I think that's a good way
so,
to put it. Yeah, because
Mm.
it
but
almost
I
kind of
yeah,
felt like dumbed down as well. Yeah,
exactly, like you were being condescended to by Jonathan Majors,
yeah.
because like if you like it felt like he was putting on a performance, like the
Hmm.
character was putting on a performance.
Exactly.
And I think that that's more to do with the Victor Timely alter
He's a
ego
con
aspect.
man.
Well, yeah, exactly. The Victor Timely alter ego thing. He goes on stage, he goes and does his show and stuff like that. So, are you familiar with like like YouTubers who like do present like movie reviews and stuff like that?
Hmm.
They all have like a presentation
Yeah,
voice,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm.
So that's what he's doing basically. He's getting used to this presentation voice, getting used to like building up a stage presence, and then as we see, he who remains has got eons, eternity to practice it,
Hmm.
and until because he's written that Sylvie and Loki will be his final audience,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So everything that he's been doing has just been practicing for Sylvie and Loki to
yeah. Meet up to him.
And it
finally
does
meet him,
come
and
out
he
in
will
that conversation when he gives us this is where we diverge from the dogma speech. Like
exactly.
that, yeah, like it just felt so much like the same character to me.
Mm. No, I think yeah, like I said, like it's not like the performance was appalling and I had to watch through my fingers or something like that. It was like no, it was just like that initial thing was a bit like okay, it's a tick. Okay, let's get over this hurdle.
Mm.
But after that, like I said, like by the point where he's face to face with Sylvie's blade, um, I was like, okay, I kind of buy it. Like I don't know. I was gonna say I mean yeah, I did kind of feel sorry for him, and again, like I said, Hitler theory. He hasn't done anything yet, and if a performance can make me feel like you shouldn't kill him right there, given who's playing him, then yeah, you've done something right. But yeah, that's it. And yeah, for those listening, our Patreon had to come out of the shadows there to give us to give us that little talking point. Uh, so yeah, cool. So let's go to the two ladies of the episode. Um,
Two of the three.
Just
oh
exactly.
yeah, true. The main ladies of
Well,
the episode because I feel like this is their episode, really.
I mean, well, I think one of them made a point that she was not a lady. He never made her
right.
a lady, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, he made her just a chess AI.
Right. don't know what to say. Right, I'm talking about Miss Red Slayer and Miss Minutes. I give up. I give up on what pronouns or whatever to use. But yeah,
The listeners are going to sorry, go on.
You're gonna get cancelled.
The listeners are just going to hate me for banging on about Legends of Tomorrow again. But when you mention Miss Minutes, right? Remember that episode where Bebo goes big?
yeah.
I ain't seen
How can
Legends
you?
of Tomorrow.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah.
But like in my head, the idea that there's news, there's a whole kind of low key mass hysteria about this ghost clock in the town. Then the ghost clock shows up, and the ghost clock goes beep and big and terrorizes it. That it like we I saw it on a CW show. I'm not complaining. I loved it, but the similarities are there, and I love the similarities because I like that show as well.
Okay, that's fair. Like I totally forgot about that particular episode of Legends of Tomorrow, but yeah.
I think the real question we should be asking is why Jeremiah has so much of legends in his brain. Like,
You
Yeah,
know what? That's a
let's
good
change the
question because I
podcast to
haven't
that.
seen that. I
yeah,
haven't
like,
seen
do you
that
want to
show
do a
in
rewatch podcast? Like,
years.
what's going on?
If anyone's seen the new Futurama, the first episode just has Fry streaming content into his brain. Is that what you do with Legends of Tomorrow?
You
Just before
guys,
you go to bed.
if you want a
Funny enough,
popcorn for dinner,
Futurama came into my head for this episode as well. But see, Banky will just keep like accusing me of more drugs.
I was just gonna
Like,
say if you want a rewatch series with Jeremiah, and Banky won't kill me for this, but like he's going to have to produce it and everything. But if you want a rewatch series of Legends of Tomorrow with Jeremiah, leave it in the comments and let us know.
I
I'll
don't
rewatch
think I'm
Lost if
that
someone wants to
interested.
rewatch Lost with me.
Oh boy, here we go. I've
There are
opened
other
Pandora's
shows that I
box.
would.
Here we go.
No, I'm joking. I'm
Prison
joking.
Break, Breaking Bad. Drop it in
Oh
the
God,
comments.
Oh, I would 100% do a rewatch of Breaking Bad. I can complain. I need my complaints of episodes 1 through 6 of the first season, the entire first season, to fall on more than just my parents' ears because I
fair
complain to
enough.
them all the time. Anyway, I did want to say something
yeah, go on.
about budget and CW. So you were saying about this has like this is very much like a CW show, which I haven't seen, but the budget of this was actually one of the lower budgets for MCU shows. It came in at 141 million, which seems high for a TV show. That's what, over
Mhm.
6 episodes. That's like, I'm gonna do 141 over 6, 20. Oh my gosh, 23.5 million an episode. But it was one of the only projects that didn't have any reshoots done.
Okay.
And I've got something that I can send you guys afterwards if you are interested about, because we were saying about cinematography. But they shot a lot of the interior TVA scenes anamorphically, so to get like a bit of a warp perspective there,
Okay.
because obviously it's so close to
Yeah.
a big center of gravity
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to get some warping of space, which
Yeah.
I thought was quite a nice touch. So you said there were specific like visual styles in the TVA. That was sort of what's going on there.
Yeah.
I'm done now. I'm
Yeah.
done.
No. I was just gonna say to close that thing. Yeah, I looked it up. Legends of Tomorrow's budget was about $2 million an episode. So
To be fair, I said specific scenes,
no.
as in specifically
Look.
the Brad Wolf scene
Yeah. No.
and
No. I'm just saying.
yeah.
Like you can do 2 million and you can do 23, and then someone could feel like they're similar. So let out spend your money efficiently, basically.
Fair enough.
Red Slayer and Miss Minutes, right? So they're kind of working together. They're trying to, in their head, enact He Who Remains plan. And yeah, I feel like
In
this
their
whole
heads.
episode, two of them just they kind of almost feel like they're in competition together. Like what do we think about like that dynamic between both of them? Mo, let me know. What do you think?
The love triangle was definitely something that was hinted at the end of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I was glad that they followed through with it. I can't remember. I remember where the episode ends, but I'm not going to say more. But the love triangle is something that like it was like I thought it was. I was when you could see the signs of it happening early on in the episode.
Yeah,
I was glad that they followed through with it
yeah,
instead of just like hinting and dragging it on, because like the show has a lot to get through. So I was glad that they kept it very contained to that episode.
yeah.
As far as like getting the good stuff out of the way, like that scene with Miss Minutes and Timely in the workshop
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. That I thought was like a lesser show, or even like any other Marvel show without this creative team
Yeah.
would have probably pushed it to like the next episode or something. So I was
Yeah.
glad that they kept it. I have
Yeah.
to like
Yeah.
Eric Martin is the head
He's
writer
the
on this
writer now.
show,
Yeah.
and he wrote every episode with some assistance from like other story credits and stuff like that. But he's got like such a clear idea of where he wants the show to go
Mm-hmm.
and the twists and turns.
Mm-hmm.
So each episode feels distinct in that it's like I was glad that they got it out of the way
Yeah.
so that they can really get into the more interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And yeah, to come back to when we were talking about drugs, like I was watching the episode and then you'd see like Renslayer and Timely talking, and there's the scene on the boat where he kind of tries to hold her hand and stuff like that. And I could, from the corner of my eye, I could see like Miss Minutes with some very weird reactions. I was like, am
Yeah.
I going nuts, or was she getting upset? I was like, what's going on? And then you'd look, it was weird because I don't know how the timings work, but then I look back at her and she just smiled like normal. I'm like, am I going nuts, or is something going on here? But yeah, Jeremiah, what did you think about the whole, basically we get into the love triangle now, like Renslayer, Miss
I had a
Minutes,
similar reaction
Victor
to
Timely.
you to that as well, because I had to look back like what, like, did I see what I just saw? And that was part of, these are part of the things that I loved about the episode. It was those little quips, like it was building up through the episode,
Yeah,
and on in that boat we're seeing her like first she's scoffing, she's like, huh, like just saying things like even in the in his place that's not really his place.
yeah,
She's reacting in certain ways, and you're thinking, what is this energy I'm getting from Miss Minutes? And then eventually on the boat, you see that you see her react as well. And you're like in my notes, I'm like, wait, Miss Minutes versus Renslayer dynamic, like they're jealous. What is going on here? And then I'm wondering why she's smiling all of a sudden. But obviously, when you watch that scene back and you see it in context, like, oh, of course, she's smiling because she realized the moment Renslayer mentioned partnership, she was done.
yeah,
So yeah, she's like, right, and then it's like that was also another scene. Again, like there was a lot in this episode that was comedic, but also layered enough to make you think. It's like next thing she's being dumped, like,
yeah.
and
Like
she manages to follow. It was hilarious, but it's
Miss
also
Minutes
like
is sassy, like for her to actually stand on the boat and basically wave by like I won. Like it's like okay.
It was very single white female
I was
of her
like,
Mhm.
I was like,
just to
like most AIs would just be like, just very calm. I was like, okay, that's the logical thing to do. She was basking in her glory, like I got my man. I'm like, come on, like,
you just said most AIs would do this. Do you have a lot of experience with AIs and love triangles, or
I mean, I can't speak. I work in tech and I'm
I
in top
mean,
secret projects, so,
I'm
so
so dead.
okay, yeah. I mean,
You know what? There was
Sometimes I get
another.
a really, really good customer service assistant on like my banking app, which I know is AI.
that
But
could be that
but
could be
like,
me. So never.
ah,
I'm dead. Well, you know what? It's great. It's great you mentioned. We'll probably. Well, maybe we should have talked about this earlier. But when we go back to Obi, we'll probably talk about this, like the tech thing you mentioned. But my thing, while you were both talking about Miss Minutes, my question then is: do you guys think Miss Minutes? Because this only just came to my mind now, and maybe I'm an idiot for not thinking this before, or maybe I'm overthinking it now. Um, do you guys think Miss Minutes actually felt that way when she? Because to me, right, it felt odd. I was like, "What the hell am I watching? Why is Miss Minutes professing
I
her
think I
like?"
think it needs to feel awkward, but I think it's been there. Like
It's
even
possible,
because I think even
but
was it in Victor Timely's like office or whatever, and
mm,
I think when he's putting it together and he was like, "Oh, you guys were the ones who kept the TVA running," and like Miss Minutes rushed to the front to be like, "Not her, it was me. I was there with you for eons. Like before her, after her, I was there." I was like, "Okay, she's very
yeah.
keen."
But what I'm saying is, there's something Sylvie mentioned to Renslayer as it's about power for you,
Hmm.
and we know that as well, that at the end of season one, Renslayer goes in search of free will because she wanted to understand what was going on. We also know there's some sort of relationship between Renslayer and Victor, and well, and He Who Remains from Loki, and then Renslayer and Victor Timely from the comics. But I'm looking like, is it possible that Miss Minutes' goal here isn't necessarily love for her master? Because she probably doesn't see this Victor Timely as her master. She did say in the office, like you just said, you're so much like him. Is it possible that she intends to control this variant? And she thought that that was her way in. Because even
Exclusive
when
popcorn for dinner scoop. Miss Minutes is a groomer.
Jesus Christ. Well, that's one way to put it.
my
Like, I feel like
goodness,
you can't say anything else.
like
Well,
that's
yeah, no,
one way to just
it's
yeah.
very groomery. Like, oh,
This,
you remind me so much of effectively your dad.
Yeah, and
Like
yeah, but like you were
this
saying, like
older person. Like,
what if this isn't he who remains and he's just orchestrating things to make sure he does it? Like maybe
okay,
the
so it was
plan
premeditated grooming.
I
pretty
think she's
much.
just
So
in
maybe
love. I
the
think
plan
like the
is.
fact that he even looks like he who remains is enough for her. I feel like, and
I
then
mean,
obviously there's some
So you
like
don't think
traits and
there's
stuff.
any chance at all that like
I think it's love,
that's
like
like he who
proper,
remains is
honest.
trying to control
Nah,
this Victor Timely
I
through
think
Miss
it's
Minutes,
love.
or Miss Minutes is trying to
I think
control
Miss
he who
Minutes is in love.
remains?
Like she
Fair
really
enough.
laid it down bare. Like
as
I
bare as she
like
could,
even when
without
I think
comment.
he puts her off on the thing, she said I, and then when they bring her back at the end, she completes it with love you. She put everything
yeah,
bare. She's putting her face on a
fair enough.
female
I think a part of
mannequin.
me is just like I don't know why they did that,
Like
but fair
she
enough.
put
I
all her
don't.
cards on the table, man. Like there
It was
there
just
was no
so.
there was no room for like, is this friendship? Is this partnership?
Yeah, but why? Because like Renslayer as well essentially tried to do the same thing by holding his hand and say and establish yourself as by your side. So in this loop, in this cycle, I'm now going to be beside you and have just as much power as you. And he
Mm.
doesn't do partnerships. And I'm thinking, what if Miss Minutes is attempting the same thing
So,
in this cycle? But then the conversation they have there is, I had him under control. So it's like, what if they both were trying to, like Mo said, groom him? Maybe not romantically, but into something,
yeah,
and they were using that as their way in.
yeah. No, I think they definitely want him to be he who remains. But
Yes, but
yeah,
like,
let me
do you
go
think they genuinely have
let me
feelings?
go to Mo to build on this grooming idea since it's his.
I don't. It's not to do
That's
necessarily with grooming. Not to do necessarily with grooming, but we did hear there's episode one, right? Episode one written by Eric Martin and directed by Moorhead and Benson, who are doing episode four
Mm-hmm.
as well.
mm,
We know at some point that from what happened in episode one, that there is a conversation that either he who remains or Victor Timely has with Ravonna, where
Yeah.
he says,
mhm.
"You are quite the marvel."
Mm-hmm.
We don't know when that happens. We don't know where
How?
that
Yeah.
happens. And we also have a question of who pruned Loki
Yeah. In the
in
future.
in the future. And I think that the cliffhangers from the season really do from this episode in particular. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not what the big secret is,
Mm.
Mhm.
because we don't actually know.
Yeah. So it's mad that you brought back that recording because I thought about that and I was like, okay, putting my comic book hat on, Ravonna Renslayer is in a relationship with Kang the Conqueror, like that's just a thing. Although Ravonna is very different, she's like a space princess or whatever. So I'm like, okay, is that just at least a hint at it or something like that? But then in this episode, we see like that romantic spark is there, and like in most of
Mhm.
these shows, like there's always the bizarre thing that almost like in most of your um timelines or whatever, you end up loving the same person, right?
The same person, yeah.
So I was like, okay, so we're getting something there. But then I think Miss Willis was just like, this is my chance to just cock block because these people are gonna fall in love again. Um, but yeah, I I'm waiting to see
Well,
how that whole thing ties together. I want to see what Ravonna is going to do now. She's at the end of time, and that kind of leads me straight to the cliffhanger for this episode, which was, um, I've got a secret. I know, obviously, it's so weird. Like we've gone so quick in the Miss Minutes arc from grooming to professing love to getting dumped to now she's a jealous ex, pretty much, or a spurned lover, and she's like, "Now I'm gonna expose his secrets," and it's like, "Do you want to know the one that's gonna make you mad?" Basically, now like the women in his life are teaming up against him. So, like we've spent through so like if this was a high school drama, this is like season one love triangle stuff that we've just spent through in like 30 minutes. But
The next three episodes are He Who Remains Must Die.
and they recruit all his exes from the multiverse.
Yeah, just
Oh my god.
oh god, that's no, not that, not the real world.
Oh my!
Not
Oh, for
forever.
crying out loud!
Okay, I wasn't thinking that. I was really more thinking like the imagery in my head was like Power Rangers Red, that Forever Red episode of all his
I
all
was,
his exes, like
yeah.
plenty Red Slayers. Like
Oh,
no,
Oh
John
man!
Maiden
but
must die.
Oh god! Right,
oh
right.
no,
Cool. Before we
no.
go completely off the rails, like, what do we think the secret is? Obviously, Mo, you've seen more than us. I don't. So,
Mm.
Jeremiah, what do
So
you think the secret is?
I have no idea. That's the simple, truthful answer. I have no idea. And at this point, like again, before Banky starts telling me I'm also an alcoholic or something, um,
There's a lot
Hmm.
going on in
I
this
I don't want
podcast.
to over.
Like if we don't get cancelled in this podcast, then I don't know. Like there's nothing we can't do.
I don't want to over theorize, but I mean, I would be interested in the idea that it has something to do with the whatever the relationship Renslayer and Kang slash Timely slash He Who Remains slash whatever else, whatever other name or moniker he's going with. I would be interested in the idea that there is something critical that Miss Minutes hasn't yet revealed to Renslayer, or Renslayer is very important to how the story pans out. What that secret is, I simply don't know because my comics knowledge of Ravonna Renslayer goes as far as reading about the relationship between her and
Mhm.
Candle Cross. So yeah, but I'm
Mine's even worse.
Yeah.
Mine's even less.
Look,
So
I'll tell you plain and pure. Like it's just name only, pretty much. Like there's almost nothing,
fairs.
nothing, nothing the same between the two.
Fairs, but I liked
do
what you were saying about the spark. I actually liked that little detail as well because I was like, "Oh, that's cute!" Like you, like they met and they seemed drawn to each other instantly, and then the jealousy comes in from our cartoon clock.
Yeah, go on, Mo.
on that note, do you want to play a game called Is It Racist?
Oh god.
Where
Uh oh.
basically
Oh.
people are theorizing that, like how Sylvie is a female variant of Loki,
Oh
Ravonna
I,
is a
I was
wow.
I
female
was about
variant of.
I was gonna
Oh
say that
my
that's my
gosh. That
that is the only
makes
Do
thing
you
I
want to
could come
call
up
it
with.
so?
no, you,
I
that
was
would make
literally
sense. So that what would make you angry?
no, because I was literally saying like that was the next. That was like when I sat down, I was like, that's the only theory I can think of because I was like,
Well,
this season one was all about Loki and his variants, right? And
yeah.
Mm.
we ended up with Loki and Sylvie, and the whole
Mm.
idea was that like Loki is a trickster, so Lokis tend to have like a Nexus event because they don't follow convention.
What they should be, yeah.
But then we
Mm.
Victor Timely, who is also a con man, and Loki almost kind of like he's a trickster pretty much. And it's like this season is basically been about He Who Remains and his variants because Loki heard the end of season one and he was terrified about it and all of that stuff. So I was like, are we gonna have something like that where like Ravonna is a variant of He Who Remains, but like she has no
That
idea
would.
about it or anything like that, and like we're just gonna have that symmetry, of like also having Loki. So that was the only thing I could come up with when I was thinking, what could this secret be? Um, but it seems very far fetched, but like it was the only thing I could come up with because she was like, it's going to make you mad because then it's going to be like, hang on, this power that I want that you're cutting me out of, Ravonna being, um,
Mm. It
I
could,
have
in
as much
theory,
claim
like
to
give
it
you
than
her.
you as you, pretty much.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm.
So it's like,
That,
so that will
yeah.
make her mad. Like, wow, okay, so I'm just trying to
Yeah.
bring a partnership, but like, meanwhile, there's no reason you should have it and I shouldn't. So
What's
that
funny
was my
is
thought, basically.
What's funny is going into this episode. So I definitely did not think of Ravonna as a Kang variant. No, but going into this episode, I did question. I was like, what if there is a female Kang variant just out there? Like, what if we see one? who would they be? So like this, you bringing this up to me is just like, wow, okay, what if that is it? But like, I would like that idea, but at the same time, like you said, it's kind of a bit far fetched because as much as I'm not saying it won't
Yeah,
happen.
yeah,
It could like it make in terms of the reaction of it's gonna make you mad. It actually fits that. But in terms of who they've established them to be so far, we don't know where Renslayer is from. But I think I don't
we
remember
saw
when,
a
but they did
Renslayer
show
that was a
her on the
teacher, right?
timeline.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Did they say what year that was in?
I can't remember.
2018. That was October 2018.
Okay,
So it wasn't.
Oh,
So it
come.
wasn't. It wasn't a variant that existed in the 31st century. However, that being said,
time travel.
if they go exactly, if they one there's time travel, two there's the idea that genetics are genetics, and if enough random changes in the initial condition happen at a certain point, things can be so drastically different, and some future generation could pop up so much earlier or so much later,
Hmm.
or whatever. Like I have no idea, but that might be too much physics or biology for Loki to dumb us down on Disney with. I don't know,
No, they just
but
stuck the word quantum in front of everything, and
Yep,
then
yep, yep.
fair
forget it.
enough. Fair enough. But yeah, I didn't think too much in that. But when you mentioned symmetry, there was I can't believe we skipped over this because the Sylvie even mentions it to us. It's like this feels a bit familiar.
Mm,
I was in love with that scene when I realized. I think there was a point where the camera pans and you're seeing them. They're at loggerheads, obviously, and then Victor Timely is just in the back, kind of like cowering a bit, and it
yeah,
was exactly like the season finale. I was just like, I love this so
yeah,
much. Them playing that again, like imagine Sylvie already angry with Loki, and then she's come to do something again, and Loki's doing the exact same thing.
yeah.
Like I loved it so much.
Yeah, no, I think yeah that symmetry and like that callback was really nice. But yeah, that is my like very I don't know out there theory about them being variants. And to bring it back, when Mo brought that up, he said, "Is this racist?" Because we've just seen a black man and a black woman, and we're like they're the same person. I don't know, man. Like,
Well, I mean, to be fair, I've only ever seen the white nerds theorize that, so
whoosh.
I don't
Ah,
know.
that's maybe why it might be then.
Yeah, is this
But
racist?
I
But I
kind
will
of have
maybe
the
say,
not the
theory,
theory
so
itself.
I kind of
Maybe not the theory itself.
no, but I definitely think that that's what sparked the thought. Like, ooh,
Possibly. But you'd
but anyway,
wonder like
but,
because B15 is right there,
I
like
know, but
I
I
mean,
think one of the things I wanted to sort of say is that like there is a lot of symmetry in the show,
mhm,
um, but I would say that Benson and Moorhead are really really great directors, and they know how to make, like you saw the picture,
mhm,
or you saw my reaction. They know how to make your jaw genuinely drop at some of the stuff that they tee up, and I'd say that
mm,
it's theorizing is really really good at this point because we really don't know where it's going to go.
mm,
But I like we get a lot of answers starting from next episode.
yeah.
fair
I think
enough.
like I always
I'm glad
say,
to hear that.
like I always say with theories, right? Like theories are great because in fandom, like you can't have a strong fandom without theories. Like think of every fandom, like there's always been like fan theories and stuff. I think sometimes like where things excel is that, and like I've had this, I think with Loki as well, where it's like, okay, they ended up with something like that's even far better than my theory, and I think that that's the beauty of it as
Mm,
well. So yeah, so I'm always like looking forward to what they do. Obviously, like I said, sometimes it can be like very painful of like, you know, right. To be fair, you only feel somehow like if whatever they pick is bad, and I kind of trust this creative team that it won't be bad. So I'm
yeah,
easy. Um, which is one of the fun things as well, of like watching this week to week. Because if I was just binging this, I'll just binge it through. Like I'll never waste my energy to theorize. Um,
true.
but yeah, no, like I really enjoyed this episode, and obviously with all the things we're hearing, next week is gonna be a great one as well. Um, quickly before we sort of try and wrap up, are there any things that you guys still want to call out for the episode quickly? Mo, I'll go to you first.
What things to call out for this episode? What do you mean?
Like, is there anything else that we haven't spoken about that you want to give a quick shout out to or anything?
I think it's just worth mentioning again. that some of the stuff that they do in the show, especially with the kind of extra runtime that they have on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
it feels like it's the first Disney Plus show, or one of the only Disney Plus shows that actually feels like a proper show that gets a lot of
Story.
it gets a lot of world building,
Yeah.
and it feels essential. And I think it's a nice breath of fresh air. And if you really really like this episode, you're gonna just like your mind's gonna be blown for next episode. I wanted to be on the podcast next episode,
Ooh.
but Banky
Mm.
said no. He told me to jump off a cliff.
Sounds like him.
Did you tell him it was a partnership?
Oh, you know what? I didn't, but maybe I should have. Then he would have pushed me off the cliff. He would. No boat allowed.
Jeremiah, anything you want to shout out?
I think funny enough, we covered most of the things I had here, but the only thing I mentioned will probably come back to the Obi and techies thing. I absolutely love that scene where Obi is being that tech support guy that is telling them the server is about to crash, and they're like, "Can't you just hack into the system?" It's like, "Can we just hack into the system?" I love that whole thing, and I thought maybe you might even you might get something out of that because again we both work in tech. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
that whole idea of the infrastructure engineer needs to
Yeah.
keep the infrastructure running. I liked that, and again their whole setup in that basement is literally like the server room like
Yeah.
prior to the cloud anyway.
Proper work comedy for
Um,
me. Where I would
they
just say
say
an
stuff.
idea and
He
people
even
think it's I'm telling them what
yeah
to do.
he
I
even
got
said something of she has administrative privileges. I'm like, this is just a day at work.
um, I had a a fun little idea. Obviously, when I know we're kind of in the context of we don't want to be oversaturated with Marvel stuff,
Mhm.
but I thought, how fun would it be if instead of I Am Groot next year, we just got like 5 3-minute shorts of OB
Oh
just
yeah,
doing TVA stuff? Because
absolutely.
you could film it just one man in the volume,
Yeah.
responding to a work request, and him having to just be around. You could film it cheaply. You could film it all in a day. I just think it would be really really nice and
Yeah.
cute, and I think I want to see more of Kihoy Kwan.
Yeah.
Definitely doing more kind of family entertainment.
Yeah, just
I would
him and
love
Eugene
it.
Cordero like answering like IT requests and stuff and fixing temp pads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would love it. Well, that actually does bring up one more thing. Then, I think we kind of hinted at this already. I really want to see, we've talked about the Kang or the He Who Remains and Renslayer connection. I want to see more of the Ouroboros and He Who Remains connection because, like you said, well, obviously there's that wild theory of what if Ubi is the villain, but Victor Timely does tell us he feels like this is his correspondence between Ouroboros, even if he technically gave it to Ouroboros, who now
Hmm.
technically gave it to him. Which, like Mo mentioned, I was waiting for the right time to bring this up, but the fact that his name is literally that in mythology,
Hmm.
I want to see that, like, if there's anything. I mean, it might just be a red herring again, like Mephisto and Ralph Bonner and whatever, but um I actually want to see if there's anything there, and I'm excited. Which is what any opportunity to get Ubi on the screen, I'm for it. I love it. I want to see it.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, we want to see more Kehui Khan. He's the best. I think one more thing I wanted to shout out in the episode was I think we finally got our first MCU mention of Boulder the Brave in this episode. Um,
Oh,
and if you've been online, you've heard rumors of like Daniel Craig was at one point supposed to be Boulder the Brave in the Multiverse of Madness as part of the Illuminati. He is basically what's the short version of Marvel Boulder the Brave? He's basically the good version of Loki, Thor's half brother, who is nice and helps him out and stuff like that, pretty much. And then for anyone,
interesting that he shows up on a branch timeline.
yeah, but then Loki recognizes him, so he's still
Of course,
in the
yeah, but
actual one. So it's interesting. So again, with that rumor from Multiverse of Madness and this, I wonder if something's cooking with Balder the Brave. Um, for the gamers listening as well, if you played God of War 2018, Balder is also the asshole you stranger that you fight like 3 times that takes like ages to kill. But yeah, I think normally in mythology, Balder's death is supposed to bring about Ragnarok, but obviously we've gone past that in the MCU. So we'll see. An Easter egg for something to keep an eye on. I just thought it was worth mentioning. But yeah, you know, another great episode of Loki. Like I said, everyone's telling us that episode 4 is going to be insane. We're going to be there to cover it for you guys, and hopefully, you guys are going to, stick with us. Like we said before at the top, we have episodes for Gen V coming out every week. We're going to cover Invincible when that starts in November. We've got other episodes on the channel, like for Sex Education, Top Boy, Winning Time, The Continental. And the sister podcast is The Cinema is back with their first episode for a bit, and it's covering Taylor Swift's Eras Tour. Check that out. Rate us, like us, share us with your friends. Let us know again if you want to if you want to see rewatch episodes and stuff like that. And we'll see if we can get them on. Also, yeah, special thanks to my guests, to Jeremiah, to Mo, who again, editor-in-chief on Streamer. Mo, is there anything you want to tell the listeners to kind of look out for from you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we've just got kind of a lot of good stuff coming up. I've got, if anyone's seen the show Upload on Prime Video,
Oh, I love that show.
Season 3 just started. I did a breakdown of the premiere with the director of the premiere, and then I've got an interview coming up with the director of the finale, the last 2 episodes, as well
That's
when they drop.
amazing.
Oh, my voice just went. Um,
The
but yeah, no,
excitement.
the production. Yeah, I did do an interview. If anyone's a Futurama fan, I did an interview with the producer of Futurama for the final season.
Oh,
That was quite
wow.
fun. But yeah, no, just keep looking out. I've got a Taylor Swift article coming out next
Ooh.
week, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, it's you guys fun. It's been fun being with you guys.
What an inside joke. I'm not even going to explain it
But
at this
yeah,
point.
I'm gonna book myself for the finale because I don't think I'd want to talk about it with anybody else apart from you
Oh,
guys.
Nice. Get everyone in for the finale, like 7 of us on the pod.
Yeah, the multiverse of PFD.
We'll do a hype video and everything with like the Portals music from Endgame and everything. Good.
Oh,
I am so
yeah,
dead.
But yeah, no, it's been a pleasure having you on. It's been a pleasure being with you.
you guys are great.
But
You
yeah,
guys are great. You guys, yeah,
um,
you're more fun.
awesome. But yeah, cool. All right, guys. Thanks for sticking with us, and yeah, check out our upcoming episodes and take care. Have a good one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.